Okay, in this lesson I'm going to show you how to work with tables. Now, this is a new page that I just started with new HTML on the site. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to erase these information which I don't need, like the script. And this is the basic document that I want to work with. To start a table, you always start with the HTML tag table. So this is going to be my table. Now, if you use a table like this one, if you try to view it in the browser, you will see there is nothing here because the table doesn't have any data yet. So let's go here. A table is going to have rows and columns. To start a row in HTML, you are going to start with a TR, which means table row. So I'm going to end one row with table row. Now this table is going to have only one row with this one. Now again, if you're tempted to see how it looks, you go and you see there is nothing because I haven't put any column or any data inside the table. Let's go and add a column. A column we represented with TD. So this is one column in our row and we finish it with /TD. Again, if you are tempted to see what is inside the table, go to preview. You will see nothing because there is nothing yet, no data to show. Now let's put a data here. Let's say number 1. If I click now, you will see number 1 appears here. But one thing you haven't seen yet is that there is no border here. I don't see any border around my table. To start a border so you can see how many rows and columns you have, go to your table and you just type border, which is a property, equal to, let's say, 1 pixel. This is going to be the width of the border. If I go and click on preview, you will see that my table is going to have one row and one column, and there is only one data which says number 1. Now, before I continue, you can see that the table has 2 lines as border. If you don't like 2 lines, this is the default display of a table. If you don't like this one, then I can use the style to get rid of this double border here. So I'm going to go here and in the table definition here, I'm going to include the style, and this property name is called border collapse. This is the property name. So you just have to remember what exactly is this one. The border collapse is going to tell the table when you are being displayed, either use the 2 border line or don't use it. I don't want to use 2 border lines, so I'm going to give the value collapse. Now, if I go and display the table, you will see that the same table is shown with only 1 line around it. So this is how I can get rid of, the border around the table. Now, let's see if you want to increase the width of the table. If you want to increase the width of the table, I'm going to add a property right on the top where the definition of table is. So I'm going to say width, okay? Let's say I want the width to be 50% of the screen. So I'm going to say 50% and then space. Now my table is going to have a width which is half of the page. If I go and look at it, you can see that the width now is half of the page here. Now, if you want to add more columns, for instance, in our case, let's add 1 more column to this row. So I'm going to copy this information and I'm going to paste it right here. Now to see the difference, I'm going to put number 2 as the data inside the column. If I go and preview it, now you can see I have two columns, and one of the column has number 1 and the other one has number 2. This also goes with the rows. If I want to have another row, look, right now I have only one row. If I want to have another row added to the table, I'm just going to go copy this tr and I'm going to paste it here, and let's change the data. Let's make this one 3 and this one 4. Now let's preview in the browser. You can see now that our table has 2 rows and 2 columns, and these are the data inside the table. Now let's play around with the display of the table. Let's say I want this number 1, which is shown here, to be in bold. How do I change the way that the data is being displayed? To change number 1, which is this is the code to show number 1. I want it to be bold, so I'm going to, as we said before, to make a word or character to be bold, I'm going to use the B tag. So I'm going to wrap it around B. And if I look at it in the browser, you can see now that number 1 is being bold. It's different from number 2, 3, and 4. That's how you can make, something bold inside your cell. Now let's change the alignment of number 2. If you remember, number 2 is left aligned in the cell. How am I going to make 2 to be right aligned, meaning that 2 appear here? To do that one, I'm going to use style for number 2 here. So I'm going to go into definition of the table column, and I'm going to say style is equal to double quotation mark, and inside I'm going to say text align and then colon, and then I'm going to type right. This is going to make it align to the right of the cell. If you look here, you can see that now number 2 is aligned to the right. You can also use the property value of center or left, so that number 2 is going to be center or is going to be on the left. Another thing I can do is I can change the color of the text. Let's say I want number 2 to be color, let's say yellow. So I'm going to put semicolon because I have another style added. So to separate them, I don't use space. I don't use like this. I'm going to put a semicolon, and then I'm going to say color, colon. Let's say we make it green, not yellow, green. Let's see what will happen. If I preview it, you will see that the color became green. Now this one is not obvious here. Let's change the color to something else so it's obvious, yellow for instance. So let's go here and change it to yellow and see what will happen. You can see now that this text became yellow. 2 is here, but apparently because of the background it doesn't show very good. Another thing that you can do is that you can change the background color of a cell. Let's say I want to change the background color of this cell to be, let's say, light blue. How do I change it? So I want to change the background of the cell containing 4 to light blue. I close this one, I go to 4, and I'm going to add style equal to double quotation mark. Remember the property name was background and then dash color. The value that I want to use is light blue, so I type light blue. So background color colon light blue. Let's see what will happen. You see the background color is changed for this cell. Another thing we can do is that let's say I want the height of the cell which contains 3 to be bigger than what the height is right now. I want the height of this cell to increase. How do I change it? Very simple. Remember, if I want to change the height of the cell, it's going to affect this guy too. I cannot change the height of this one and not affecting this one. So this means that the style that I have to use, or the property that I have to use, has to be in TR, table row, not TD. So let's go to the row which has 3 and 4, and I'm going to add height is equal to, let's say uh, 50. Now let's preview it. You can see that the height now changes to 50 pixels. So the height changed here. Now the other thing I can do is that I can change the width of a cell. Let's say I want to change the width of this one to lower the width. Okay? But again, remember, when you change the width of this cell, it's going to affect the width of this cell and this cell, because this line which separates this cell and this one is going to move to the left if I change the width of the cell. So let's see how we can change the width of this cell here. So the cell is 3. So I go back here. This is the cell, so I can use width is equal to, let's say, 20. If I use this one, then you can see the width of this one change, but automatically the width of this one changed too. Again, you understand that these two are in the same column. And this one is already increased. The reason is that, remember that we set the width of the table to be 50% at the beginning. So if this one changes to 20 pixels, the rest of width of the table is going to be added to this cell or this column, sorry. So the whole thing is going to increase. You shrink this one, you're going to increase this one.